Hello. Hi, Mr. Damien.
Hi, Miss Maloney. How are you?
Good, good. So I'd like to start by, I apologize for our slight delay in getting started today. We had another BPI panel that we had to wrap, and then I had to transition over to the Instagram Live. So thank you, everybody, for your patience. I see one of our BPI members. Hey, Marielle Stewart on. So thank you everyone for joining BPI Chats today. I'm your host, Alexandria Maloney, and I hope that everyone is staying safe and lifted during this time. So the purpose of this series is to share the experiences and the insights of members of the international affairs community and hopefully to inspire the next generation to explore opportunities in the field. Also, the thoughts and views of our guest speakers are their own, and we are currently live streaming this talk, and it will be posted on our IGTV and on our YouTube channel afterwards. So if you haven't already, please follow Black Professionals in International Affairs on Instagram, as well as our guest speaker, whose handle can be found on their flyer on our page. And lastly, we encourage viewers to chime in below in the thread with comments and questions that they may have. So without further ado, I will introduce our guest speaker. Mr. Dameone Ferguson is an experienced diversity, equity, and inclusion practitioner with a successful record of managing government and private industry employee-based programs to maximize organizational impact. His past experience includes as a diversity and inclusion global diversity business consultant with Lockheed Martin, where he served as a strategic collaborator and influencer in support of the development and execution of the global diversity and inclusion framework and strategic priorities. He has served as a co-chair to the National LGBT Chamber of Commerce with further program experience with the U.S. Department of Energy and the National Nuclear Security Administration. I see we have another one joining the
As a
talk today, which
guest,
is
yes.
perfectly fine. That is perfectly fine. And he obtained his BA in Mass Communications from Voorhees College, a Master's in Social Work from Howard University. He's currently an Employee Resource Program Manager for the U.S. Coast Guard. So thank you so much, Dameone, for joining us today, and little Dameone for joining us today.
Thank
Here
you,
for all.
Alex. It is such a joy to be here with you on this virtual platform. And I would like to also say my son name is Seven, and he will too be taking part of this conversation. He is full of life and has a lot to say. So if at any point you have any questions for him, he will too be willing to answer your questions.
Oh. So I'd like to start off by asking as we see a little here, but how has the COVID-19 situation affected, the work that you do?
Wow, right? When we talk about uncertain times, we could not be in a more um, advantageous place, right, for opportunities. A lot of our work has been put on hold, but it has given us the opportunity to be much more strategic in nature. When we talk about the work that I lead, I am responsible for our employee resource groups. So all of our employees who find community within the workplace, I am responsible for creating that safety so that they may be able to be vulnerable, so that they may be willing to create a sense of belonging, so that they may be able to engage not only in the mission critical activities of the Coast Guard, but also in our respective communities. It is so important that we understand that the workplace is only a small microcosm of the world. And so we are really being much more intentional in terms of really creating and restoring humanity within the Coast Guard. I will also say that during these times, it has awakening a focus on psychological safety, right? So when people are, as we prepare to enter back into our workplaces, normalcy will look very different. And so we have to ensure that we are priming and preparing individuals to enter into that space psychologically, right? We have experienced deaths during this time that we have not been able to reconcile in terms of really giving our last wishes or saying our last wishes to those who are transitioning. So it is really going to be a place of us really helping people to be mentally stable so that we may be able to continue to carry on the multiple missions of not only the Coast Guard, but of the important work that we all are doing.
Mm. Thank you, Dameone. For those who have just joined in, we're here with Dameone Ferguson, who is an experienced diversity and inclusion practitioner, currently with the U.S. Coast Guard, with previous experience in so many very interesting agencies and organizations. So feel free to ask any questions that you have in the thread or any comments. So my next question is, could you tell us more about what got you to where you are today? So, you know, the academic, the professional, the life journey.
Yes, purpose and passion, right? Finding my purpose very early on and continuing to nurture that through my passion. And very, very fortunate, you know, as the talk of this conversation or the title of this conversation is harnessing the collective, right? The power of the collective. Um, I had a village that really poured into me. As I grew up, I had some untimely situations that could have derailed my focus. My mom being one of those, being murdered by our next door neighbor. So it
Mm,
really allowed for me to take those situations and really leverage those as kind of levers, if you will, to continue to ensure that I was maintaining focus. My grandmother, a strong Black woman who really in spite of her own issues, did the best that she could for my sisters and I. And the best that she could was instilling the value of education. And so education was at the focal point, the forefront of everything that we did within our household because my grandmother knew the value of learning. Um, that propelled me to, be interested in continuing my education, post-secondary. And I was enrolled at Voorhees College, a small liberal arts college in Denmark, South Carolina. No one really knew much about the institution other than on the way to the institution, you rode by many cotton fields. And
mm,
so it was a question as I'm writing, oh, do I really want this experience? Am I really ready for what this could be? Because this could be life altering and life changing. And that it was. I was able to find voice. I was able to find opportunities to really showcase and really harness my leadership. And I had an environment that was nurturing of that. So not only from peers, the community, but also administrators of the institution. That is so important when we talk about ensuring that students are ready for the next plateau of their lives, and that's entering into the workforce. For me, I chose to go on and continue my educational prowess by attending Howard University School of Social Work. So backing up, I was a mass communications major at Voorhees College. That opportunity propelled me and really gave me foresight into the later opportunities in moving to Washington, D.C. and going on to Howard. Uh, I was very fortunate to be a part of an inaugural class of cybersecurity experts on our campus. Not having a background in cybersecurity or in the STEM disciplines, again, communications major, wanted to push myself outside of the box. And so oftentimes we confine ourselves to our disciplines and not understanding that our disciplines are cross-related, interrelated, have so much interconnectedness that we often are short-sighted because of how we are conditioned in terms of understanding what is available in the marketplace. And so people challenged me in that space. I was then able to go on to work for the U.S. Department of Energy, where I managed the very same program that I came in as an intern that was specifically for underrepresented minorities and really helping to prime the pipeline of really talented individuals that we had not tapped into. Moving from there, I was then asked to come to support the only office in federal government that has a perspective of diversity and inclusion and correlating that with economic impact. And so really having the opportunity to learn and really deepen my skill sets within the D&I space, and really helping our office to not only understand the great initiatives that we were undertaking, but also connecting those to sustainable opportunities for traditionally underserved communities. Having then moved on from that experience and the changing of guards in the administration, saw that as an opportunity to deepen my skills into private industry, and had the very great fortune of working for one of our defense contractors, Lockheed Martin Corporation, for which I was responsible for, again, their employee-focused resource groups and helping leadership to really create a strong commitment and ties to that strategy so that we may be able to fully integrate individuals in that overarching strategy that helps us to not only retain our talent, look for new talent in terms of our recruitment, but for them to fully engage. Now, having come full circle, now being back in public service, continuing to fulfill the missions in the defense space, still continuing to create opportunities for traditionally underserved minorities, whether that is racial minorities, gender minorities, or orientation minorities, really bringing forth the focus of opportunities to really help vulnerable populations within our workforce understand that they are valuable. Much to what I just shared, all of that came with a village of people, right, who stood beside me, who stood behind me, who stood in front of me, really allowing me to take on and be able to carry the next leg of the race in this war we call diversity and inclusion. It's a messy work. It is a very, still a growing space of opportunity and a discipline. And I think that as we continue to define and really refine what D&I looks like across many industries to include international affairs, we're going to see that there is vast opportunities for traditional underrepresented minorities, such as women and people of color.
Dameone, thank you so much for sharing that. I'm going to share a little tidbit of you that I don't think that I have shared with you before. And for those who are listening, so I knew of Dameone before I knew Dameone, and let me tell you why. He is so modest in the work that and humble, which I respect as one of your greatest qualities, because I remember reading, about you with the Department of Energy, in regards to being a part of a team that received like $1 million worth of grants that helped to contribute to these efforts, recognition at some point with the BEA Black Engineer of the Year award, which I found so inspiring. So when I eventually did cross paths with you during your time at Lockheed Martin, I was just like, this is a phenomenal person who is so inspiring. And I'm curious to know if you could speak a little to as an individual, harnessing your authentic voice in the work that you're doing, and how that voice can be harnessed in particularly conservative environments.
So I think that oftentimes we are our own worst enemy. And I say that to say that oftentimes we put a lot of limitations on ourselves that we feel others will put on us. And so I have always lived by a motto: tell me I forget, show me I remember, involve me I understand. And I think that it has allowed me to fully engross myself into the discipline of this work, so that I can not only become a subject matter expert, but that I also can ensure that as I am bringing others into the fold, that I am not doing the very same things that I did not like when I was entering into this work. So being a Black, gay man who also happens to be a father, I think is it is becoming a new norm in our society. I don't think that it has not come with its challenges, right? And I think that its challenges is lack of proximity to people who live experiences that are vastly different from our own. I think that it is also being able to be emotionally mature and intelligent in this space. And that is understanding that not only your perspective, but others' perspectives. Because in that difference, then you're able to create some shared opportunity and shared meaning that creates common ground. Much of this work is, as I mentioned, messy, right? I think that we have received a stereotypical misnomer about our work, and that it is that we are police and that we're chasing you down to be, you know, the race police or the gender police or the orientation police. And we're not that. We're here to essentially create an opportunity to build awareness, because in building awareness, we're able then to harness the power of that collective to develop innovative solutions to our most critical issues and challenges. And I think that if we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, and that is a lot of how I lead my work, is I allow myself to be vulnerable, because in my vulnerability, I am modeling the behaviors, and I use that word intentionally, behaviors that I want others to kind of emulate. It is so important when we talk about this work that we are not only talking about policies and the systems that continue to keep people not engaged in the opportunities. It is also our own self-limiting factors. And so I say to you that, you know, most of the conversations that we have is about our own self-limiting, so, you know, kind of conversations that we have to have with ourselves. But I also think that it will help to bring forth the opportunity to dialogue around those sensitive areas that we just aren't, some people aren't quite yet ready for. And so most of my work has been led around that, is really ensuring and really creating an opportunity to be emotionally intelligent, emotionally mature, so that it will allow individuals to be vulnerable so that we may be able to share cross difference.
I think Seven is seconding everything you're saying. He's like, yeah, Dad, tell him, Dad, tell him. So thank you for sharing that. For folks who are listening, feel free to drop any comments or questions that you have in the thread. So Dameone, my next question for you is specific to strategies and maybe experiences that you could speak on for individuals who may be in a position where they have good ideas, have new ideas. What are ways that younger or more junior professionals can communicate that and can articulate those ideas to more senior individuals in that field who may be more rigid in their thinking or approaches to some of these different areas, especially in diversity and inclusion?
I definitely encourage mentors, not only in your field of discipline, but outside of your field of discipline, because it allows you to have a varying perspective of the work for which you will be engaging in. I also think taking advantage of employee focus groups within the organization also allows for the opportunity to harness influence, right? So when we talk about moving work, it isn't in a very siloed way. It has to create very connection points that will allow for individuals to really be able to take advantage. I think that it is incumbent upon people to be very strategic in how they socialize information, right? Because change is hard, but it is the only constant thing. And so I think that helping people to see how they also fit into that change management profile will allow them to buy in much more sooner. It will also help them to less the resistance in terms of them also being able to point back to their legacy in the work. And it also allows for you to be able to take inventory of all of the pieces that could be potentially missing and gaps, so that as you're continuing to build out the business case, that you're approaching it from a full, well thought out, holistic picture versus kind of one siloed perspective.
Great, thank you for that response. So we have one question from Hey Coach Marielle, who asks, what advice would you have for a new life coach, me, exclamation point, as she says, trying to get into leadership development and coaching in the public sector space. And Dameone, maybe you could also speak to any insight you may have on like consulting as well, because I know you also, do some boutique consulting.
Yes, so I think that one, taking advantage of the free resources that are out here now, particularly during these uncertain times. A lot of our academic institutions have a lot of free resources and certificates that you may be able to take advantage of. So I also encourage you to please look into those. And what I could do, Alex, is send some follow-up information, and we can ensure that those who are part of these calls can get the information or are part of the distribution list. I also think that it's important to ensure that you're leveraging your network. Your network is an extension of who you are. And so, as you are continuing to grow your skills within the life coaching space, take time, create some reverse mentorship relationships, create some test cases with friends within your network, leaders within your network, because that also is not it's twofold. You're also getting the skills that you need to continue to do and be dynamic in this space, but it's also allowing you to have that practical experience, right? A lot of times, these type of experiences require that practicality, that let's get my feet in the water, let me get my hands dirty, because that is when you will learn most in this space. I also encourage you to look out for your employee resource groups. And I say that not to put my own plug in, but because those are networks that are there to not only provide mentorship, professional development, but there are also ways that we can connect suppliers. When we talk about diversifying our supplier base, here you are coming into a new discipline, new skill that may be needed in the marketplace. So that could also lend itself to consultancy opportunities that could be afforded. So, I mean, the sky is the limit when you talk about touching people and humanity. It is just the opportunity to really be able to connect and really be able to leverage the collective network so that you may be able to benefit from that.
What's your opinion on doing pro bono work as like establishing for folks who may just be starting out trying to develop a portfolio?
I think that I encourage it, but I also know that in these uncertain times we have to live. So I'll answer it this way. I think that it is a great experience building opportunity. It also allows you to be focused on the task at hand, and that is to grow your skills. I think that when you also put money and kind of the business model on that, that could dilute your intentions in terms of growing. So you have to be very intentional and very strategic in terms of what it is that you're looking to do. Whether it's grow your skill sets, I would then say do pro bono work, because then that helps you to focus on the work itself. If it is also to make money, I say then, also have that as a part of the conversation. But it is something that you have to figure out inwardly and then be able to kind of strategize how to execute.
Yeah. And I've had other colleagues who may take on a few pro bono projects at the beginning of their, as they're exploring consulting, to also utilize those individuals as, recommendations or referral, to be able to, let me refer you to one of my previous clients to give some perspective on how now the work has to be good. It has to be,
Exactly.
You had to have done something substantial. But I've also seen that done, which I'll vocalize for those who may be interested kind of in getting into this space.
And it's an introduction, right? So it's an introduction to who you are and your services, and it establishes your brand. So when we talk about, that next element is your brand, I think that also becomes important. So that's why I say you have to be very intentional and very much strategic in terms of what you want to do, whether it is to grow that skill and really the reputation as a as a subject matter expert in the space, or if you are, trying to, if you need that kind of money right up front, really focusing on that business model.
Great, thank you. Could you also speak to, you mentioned branding. Do you have any advice or, guidance on personal branding, personal, marketing oneself?
So, I am all about ensuring that you are putting forth your best self, right? And so, best self is so subjective. Um, I can't describe that for anyone else. How I put my best self forth is ensuring that I am knowledgeable about my area of expertise, that I am adding value in the conversation, right? And so I think that is so important when you talk about having not just talking to just talk, but having something substantive and meaningful to say. I think that also being able to show up in some type of professional attire, right? And I think that that again becomes subjective. In varying environments that I have been in, I have seen dress codes um, as a means to opportunities, right? And that's the unhidden rules of the jungle. And so I think that getting into an organization and really understanding the hidden rules of the jungle will also be something that will lend itself to your brand. Because then now you're understanding the way the game is being played within your respective organization. So instead of going in and playing checkers when you should be playing chess, you understand that strategy and you've now become the practical application of that, right? So the strategies, things that you're putting in place in terms of your own thinking, your own connectivity, you are also ensuring that that is reflecting a reflection of you. Um, Also, the people that you keep in your network, again, is an extension of you, an extension of your brand. So you want to ensure that you are not only looking for people that are 2 or 3 steps ahead of you, but also 2 or 3 steps behind you, because that means that you are then able to pour into those individuals while also maintaining and growing your brand. Most of this, you can't do this work in a silo, right? You can't do this work alone. It takes the collective for us to be able to take advantage of. I know. Say, ain't that right? Can I get an amen?
So I had one final questions, and feel free to put any concluding thoughts on this. But what advice would you tell your younger self? Is there anything that you know now that you wish you knew when you first started this journey?
Don't limit yourself. I think that it could be so easy to fall victim to the obstacles that come to define success in this space. And I think that also keeping um, yourself focused on your purpose and your passion. Because understanding your purpose and passion and really understanding it will lead to finances, will lead to, you know, uh, being paid at the levels that you should be. I think that I would purposefully tell myself not to limit myself, because I think that I have put so many personal limitations on myself, whether it was my race or my orientation or just some of the challenges that come with the intersections of those identities. Um, I would say not to give up, because there's so much opportunity on the other side. You just have to be willing to work just a little bit harder. I also say, as I started the conversation, tell me, I'll forget, show me, I'll remember, involve me, I'll understand. And that's where I want to encourage people, get involved. As you are becoming involved, then you understand the rules of the game. As you become involved, then you understand how to make moves within the game. As you become involved, then you understand how to bring others into the game with you. As you become involved, then you understand how to be promoted inside of the game. So it's so much value understanding and being inside of the game versus sitting on the peripherals of the game. And the game
Mm.
is the game of life, right? Life is the game that we're playing. And so if we sit on the sideline of life and allow life to live us, then we will never be able to reach our fullest potential. And that is all that we're asking people to do, is to reach their fullest potential. And what we will do is be that collective force that will stand beside them, behind them, in front of them, ensuring
Mm.
that they are successful.
I just want to snap on all of that, on all of that. Dameone, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us and share your journey and your insights. What's the best way that people can connect with you or reach out to you on social media or LinkedIn?
Yes, please contact me, reach out to me. I am on LinkedIn, Dameone Ferguson, Dameone, traditional Ferguson. I am on Instagram, Dame-2. You'll get a little bit more personal insights into my life and really being able to live my life as a model and as a person who really is passionate and purposeful about this work. I am also on Facebook. Same name and spelling, Dameone Ferguson.